hiding behind a tree, and if you can guess which one it is, I'll give you a little prize. Alright, made your mind up? But you didn't think it was this one, eh? Off to the side. I guarantee you chose that one. I'm one step ahead of you. Now you might be wondering, Caleb, what are you doing playing in some random little forest? My answer for you is, I'm in Cyprus, beautiful little country, and I'm here for 5 days. And now you might ask again, Caleb, why are you in Cyprus for 5 days? And that is because I'm a connoisseur, not of many things, but I'm a connoisseur of cheap travel. And that means when I was offered cheap flights, I took it, even though it meant I had to spend 5 days in Cyprus, which is definitely not a bad place to be. However, it does seem to be raining now. But I'm making the most of it. I've hired out a little car. Doesn't have a name yet, so if you have any good names, let me know. I know a lot of people probably think, that's a bit sad, just driving around Cyprus. But I reflect on these moments and I think, God, this is the most freedom I'm ever going to have in my entire life. I'm just free roaming, man. Although, I am slightly uncomfortable, so let's keep moving. Alright, and just like that, we're here. Where do you ask? No clue. I've brought you to this big beautiful church, not because you need to go there, but because I have a confession. I get asked a lot, Caleb, how do you afford to travel and how do you do these things? Where do you work? Etc, etc. And it's something that I've never sort of elaborated on. But today, I want to do that. I'm feeling like I'm at the end of the road of this sort of exploration and independent journey. I'm yearning more to have a community, to be a bit more grounded. And so I'm passing on this baton of travel to you. And I'm going to share all my secrets and give you some top tips because it's not as expensive and crazy as it might seem. So I kind of just drove straight up the guts of Cyprus. I can guarantee no one around here is going to speak English, but that's kind of the fun of it. Let's see what's going on. Oh my gosh. Alright, here's a top tip. Free on the house. Learn a little bit of the language when you go into a new place. I usually do. By going to this church and there's all these people arriving for some wedding or something, and I just looks like some crazy dude. Oh man. Anyway, that's what it's partly about. How better to illustrate traveling, right? A mishap in a mishap. I tell you what, if you're going to get married in Cyprus, today seems like the day. Because as I'm driving along, there's just like bells going off everywhere. Seems like a cool little place. And I saw this mountain and I was like, well, we are scouring out for a place to sleep tonight. So maybe you can help me spot somewhere to stay up here. Oh, it's really quite hot. I gotta take this off. Anyway, pretty. I guess to keep my end of the deal, I got to let you in on some of these tips that I've been talking about. You know, I've done a lot of talking, but I haven't even said anything. I guess it can seem like pretty desperate to be like, oh, keep an eye out for a place where I can park my car and sleep. But that's just the reality of like cheap travel. You got to be a little bit frugal. And so I've made this system. There's 4 different aspects of travel. With each aspect, you have 3 different levels. You have like a bougie level, where it's just like, yeah, splash out on this. You have a reasonable level, and then you have a frugal level, where you're really scraping the bucket. You're really trying to save money. And with those 4 aspects, if you add up those dollar signs, there's a golden score. And if you have between 7 and 8, that's perfect. You're not spending too much money. You're not living too frugally. And the first aspect I want to talk about is movement. So like, how on earth did I get here? I got a car down there. So there's 3 levels to movement. And I'm going to use Europe as an example because it's probably the most travel-friendly continent. The first bourgeoisie level is you want to buy a Eurail pass, which is an awesome train travel thing that just means you can pretty much go to any country by this amazing, romantic, slow version of travel. So Eurail or Interrail, Google that, buy one of those passes if you're feeling rich. A side note for that is also hiring out a car. That's what I've done. I've been a bit bougie with my movement in Cyprus. The second level of movement, I'd really recommend looking into Flixbus. Now, Flixbus is like Eurail. It has this amazing network between these crazy places in Europe, but it's not as expensive as Eurail, and you're on a bus, but it's still nice, and it's super accessible. Another side note of that is BlaBlaCar. Now, I love BlaBlaCar. It's like hitchhiking, but super safe. Pretty much how it works is people put rides that they're doing. So say I'm driving from Paris to Frankfurt, and I'll put that in the app, and I'll say, I've got free seats. So I've got 4 seats, and I'm going to charge each person 10 euros to hop in that. So it's super cost effective. It's super safe, and you meet a bunch of cool people while doing it. I've done it a bunch, and I rate it. Number 3, very, very frugal level is you can hitchhike, which I've done before, and it's good, but you got to leave ample time if you're going to do that, because you can't depend on getting picked up. It's also a bit unsafe depending on the country, and there's lots of laws in different countries. I've heard stories from my girlfriend of hitchhiking in France and having the best time ever or something like that, and then as soon as you get into a different country which has different laws, you just don't get picked up. And what happens when it gets to midnight? Let's end it there. And I'm thinking it looks more sunny out in the distance, so maybe we'll head that way. I had to tell myself as I was coming down here, and maybe it's a good number 2 tip, don't rush in travel, you know? And I know that might sound a bit silly because I'm literally in Cyprus for 5 days. But what I mean by that is things are going to go wrong, and sometimes it's going to get a bit uncomfortable, and you just got to take things as they come and go with the flow and try and not speed along and see everything. Give things the time they deserve, and be careful when running and rushing down hills. Let's keep going, but not too quickly. People are protective of their hay bales. Fuck. That took a fat run up. Let's make this one quick. Now, before you think about movement, you got to think about how to get to Europe. That's the big question. Unfortunately, if you're going from New Zealand, you're going to have to fly. I swear I've already looked into cargo shipping. It doesn't work. So my advice would be to try and find flights with the least carbon emissions. But the reality is you're going to have to fly there. Now, you can feel extremely guilty about it, but one way that you can make yourself feel a little bit better is if you find a cheap flight. And here are the 3 levels of the aspect of flying. First of all, and it's not even super bougie, but go to a travel agent. It seems bougie, but it's kind of in disguise. Sometimes they can get you super cheap flights. Comparatively to the other levels, you usually won't find cheaper stuff, but sometimes they help. I believe they get commissions off the airlines that they book you with. So that's how it works. I've done it before, it's great, but it's not the cheapest. The next cheapest, reasonable Caleb, would go on Google Flights, and that pretty much searches every database for every flight available, every airline, and it gives you the cheapest, most environmentally friendly flights to take. That's usually my go-to. I just check it out there. But frugal Caleb, and I tell you what, this trip, I have been frugal on my flights. I use a website called kiwi.com. Now, kiwi.com is like Google Flights, but instead of showing direct routes, it will show pretty much any tangible journey you can take from point A to point B. So it could stop you in Cyprus for 5 days, just like me. Because you have these extremely convoluted routes, it's far, far cheaper. Now, not that I don't love a good old bale of hay. This probably isn't the best place to sleep either. We're next to a highway. Let's keep going before I get shouted at by a farmer. Now, inevitably, when you travel and you look around and you have such a great time, you're gonna get a little bit peckish. And it's very tempting to want to go to these amazing restaurants with their beautiful cuisine. But I'm here to tell you, you don't quite have to do that. You're gonna lose a lot of money that way. There's 3 things you can do with meals. The top level, in my humble opinion, would be to go to a locally run restaurant. You're gonna get nice food, homemade, and it's gonna be an experience. It's recommended to do at least once. If you wanna go a level down, now this program is designed by my girlfriend. This is the 5-5-10 rule, where you spend €5 on breakfast, €5 on lunch, and €10 on dinner, which is a pretty good budget. And then Frugal Caleb, and I'm going to be honest, this is my baseline setting for meals. I've always been this way. I pretty much do this naturally. You go for the cheeky meal deal. It's like a little game, guys. Let's see how little we can spend for the most amount of food. Dude, they have Weet-Bix. Go literally anywhere in the world and you'll find old El Paso fajita kits. If there's any time in your life to be eating like this, it's right now, you know. Sit on your ass for a bit and just eat rice and beans. Oh yeah. People aren't gonna like it, but this is peak travel. I mean, look, you got the monastery, got the beautiful little car, and the sunset. Cyprus all around you. How's this for a place to sleep? Pretty good. Pretty good. And I know a lot of people are probably watching this video and they're like, this guy's just crazy. Like, there's no way to live. But when you've got some delicious vine leaves on one knee and tzatziki on another knee, and a view like this, how else can I act? This is the most amazing way to live or experience to have, you know? There's one last aspect of travel that I still got to go over. It's accommodation. You got 3 levels. The first one, Hostel World, probably pretty well known. It's like the main website where you can find cheap youth hostels to stay in. And there's a whole review process so you can see which ones are really good and you can see which ones are really bad. The next level down is doing a workaway. And I say level down purely because it's cheaper, but it is so much more enriching to your travel experience. I would highly recommend doing a workaway. Pretty much the concept is you go to a farm or you go to I went to a monastery once and you can help garden and help cook and pretty much do jobs that no one else wants to do. And in return, they're going to give you accommodation and food. And you usually share that experience with other travelers and it's a great way to meet people. And number 3, frugal. I've done this one a lot too. Frugal Caleb, when he's really frugal, he's going to couch surf, which is also equally an enriching experience, but it's a bit, sometimes when you're traveling and you can be super tired and you just need a crash, you want to be going to a hostel, you want to have like your own space. But if you're going to a couch surfing spot, there might be an expectation that this person wants to spend time with you or to, go out for a drink or something like that when you just need a crash. And so you've got to have the right expectations going into a couch surfing thing. I've had some really weird experiences, but I've also had some awesome ones. Maybe it's a last resort, but also it's a great way to meet people. And you know what? Having a local show you around the space that you're in is like amazing. And there's one more little level of accommodation, and it's sleeping in your car. And you probably won't believe me when I say I've actually never done this before, but when in rural Cyprus, it's beautiful travel. And I hope this video has kind of done the opposite of what a lot of creators do and like glamorize it. Like, this is what it's really like a lot of the time. Not all the time. Sometimes it's very bougie and sometimes it's very frugal, but it's accessible and possible to pretty much everyone in different sort of ways. And it's the most beautiful thing you can do growing up in your development, because it just gives you this renewed sense of perception of the world, and understanding and perspective. I just love doing it, and I would recommend to try it, to go out on a whim by themselves, take a chance, trust in strangers. You know, wherever you are in the world, you're always, 24 hours from home. What's the worst that could happen, You have to go back and bum at your friend's place for a bit, or back to your parents, and man, it can be really hard sometimes. And even coming here to Cyprus, like the first day, I was like, shit, man, what am I doing? I miss my girlfriend, and I still do. But having come to the end of this trip, I'm kind of like, wow, I made something of it, It's worth it. Facing your fears and getting uncomfortable and ruffling some feathers. My travels and adventures have been a super important foundation of my development, of my creative expressions. It's really challenged a lot of things that I've thought to be true. There's just so much out there. There's so much out there to see. You should find a way to access that and see how you can be a part of it. Late night chats in Cyprus, eh? This is probably the beginning of the end of the vɪlm. This is the 88th, I believe. We're narrowing into the final 10, so buckle up. Let me know if you have a name for this car. I've enjoyed showing you around. I gotta get some sleep.